What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Malazan Server. I've actually had a few days off from the server since the Elder Scrolls Online, is it ESO? Yeah, Elder Scrolls Online, the DLC came out elsewhere, so I've been playing that for the last few days, so I've not really had much time on the server, and I want to get rid of this dirt pillar. I forgot that this is where my second camera account was standing. Then it's going to bug me if I leave it there. But yeah, today we are actually going to be leaving our confines of our island because there's a different project I actually want to work on. Now, I did come on and then I wanted to sort of get a list of different projects that I wanted to work on, just so that way, because each time I come on, it's sort of a case where I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to do on that day that I come on, and I end up sort of flapping about for a good couple of hours before I actually come to a decision of something to work on. But up here, as you can probably tell, nothing much has changed, but I have shifted this entire collection system over by about 4 blocks. Then I've moved the outline of this building over. I got rid of the second building on this corner because it was then going to be encroaching on the space of this one. And then I redesigned the sort of shape that I want this one to be. I have no idea what sort of building's going on it, but that's not something that we're going to be worrying about today. But if we hop down here, and I can show you my list of different projects that I actually want to work on. It's a very long way. By the way, there's a slime somewhere hidden in the area just where this comes out, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it, but I can definitely hear it bouncing around somewhere in the ceilings or within the walls around here. Which is slightly bugging me because it means I'm going to have to go half slabbing again. But I've made a little project wall. It's a little bit of a weird location for it. I need to find somewhere more permanent for it, but for now we've got a super smelter, which I definitely want to do, an iron farm once there's a decent working concept that isn't like 3 bits of iron every hour, cocoa and or cookie farm because, well, why not? Pumpkin pie farm, because it's a fairly decent food source and it's a fairly fun one to build because you've got the combination of a pumpkin farm with a sugarcane farm with an egg farm needed for that. And then you've got your animal farm, so your cows and sheep, so that's a whole slew of different farms, so that's probably going to be another 2 or 3 different farms. Auto brewer, because I tend to use potions fairly often when I'm out and about. A raid hostile mob farm. Now me and Mac actually have a work in progress on that, which has been a work in progress for about 4 weeks now, but once that's ready to go ahead, then I'll definitely take you over there to check it out. And that is my phone, which should be on silent. That's Mac giving me coordinates of my project I actually want to work on today. We want a new industrial area for massive industrial farms, so that way we don't end up lagging out this particular area. Is that a slime over here and not the one over there? Please tell me it is. Yeah, we've got a big slime and a little slime by the looks of it. So an industrial area, that's going to be massive with massive new machinery, and then a mining outpost because I'm now beginning to run low on certain little resources which I can buy off of other players on the server, but I think the main one is iron. I'm constantly running low on. I want coal blocks for a cosmetic build that I want to work on, and I am actually running low on redstone. Restocking the redstone shop is killing me. I'm half tempted to go back and just buy everything that I restocked with it, but yeah, redstone is, I keep on running low on it for some reason. I don't know why, considering I've not really been tending to use it at like an extraordinary rate, but our redstone boxes are full and we're not running dry on it at the moment. But today's project, what I actually want to work on is not actually on this list at all. It's something that I was sort of messing about with because I want black glass and I want black concrete. I've already bought a bunch of black concrete. There's a concrete shop in town, and I actually bought an entire shulker's worth for 15 diamonds, which is a wicked deal because you get the shulker box with it as well. Not that we're short on shulker boxes, but yeah, shulker box is always handy to have. But the project I want to work on today, before I get too sidetracked, is a squid farm for, well, an ink farm for... Where did he come from? Sorry about that. He must have spawned up there where our AFK fisher is, but he must have just committed suicide. Poor guy. But yeah, in order for the Squid Farm, the way that I think it... Okay. The way I think it works is the case where we've got a, well, maxed it up an ice farm over where our charged creeper factory is. And with that, he's sort of inadvertently made a very efficient fish farm, and it's because there's an ocean where it's a frozen ocean biome that's obviously covered majority by ice, and ice will block sky access, and when you do that, obviously the fish and whatnots need sky access in order to spawn. So when you block off that much of a large area of the sky access, it means that the fish will then start spawning rapidly on the surface, and I'm hoping the same goes for squid. But what it does mean that I'm going to have to do is find an ocean biome and actually cover the 4-chunk radius in every direction of where we're going to be. So it will be like a whole thing. So we've got that, that, and that. This is going to be our sort of AFK spot. And then we're also going to have to fill in the corresponding chunks. Have I got any other blocks? No, I have not. Give me some slime blocks. There we go. So what we're going to have to do is sort of fill out every single block here represents an actual chunk in the game, so 16 by 16, and we're going to have to cover this entire thing with solid blocks on an ocean biome. So then we'll end up with something looking very similar to this, and let me just fill in these ones. And it's quite a large area that you end up having to fill in. It may not sound like much, 4 chunks in each direction. A chunk's only 16 by 16. Yep, it doesn't sound like a very large area, but it is, and it takes some time to do. And I have actually got the block count. It's something like 14,500 blocks. Yeah, just over 14,500 blocks to cover an entire ticking radius with solid blocks. So it's going to take a little bit of time, and what I'm going to do, rather than waste your time watching me painfully do that or try to do some form of time lapse on it, because this will be very boring time lapse, like a ridiculously boring time lapse if I was to do it. But I've actually got the blocks all ready. I've just grabbed a ton of our cobblestone, so our cobblestone reserves have sort of dropped a bit. But cobblestone is something that I tend to throw through the system quite often, and when it's sort of full, it just goes through and gets burnt in the overflow. So using cobblestone isn't much of an issue, and it works out as, I think it was just shy of 9 shulkers, which I've now stocked them all up, ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the ocean biome that Max actually found more for words. It's very early for me, by the way. I never usually record this early, as I said before. But yeah, I actually wanted to get started on this project early, and I didn't want to just bring you over without explaining what I was going to do beforehand, because I'm not too sure if it's going to work. And honestly, if it doesn't work, you'll unlikely see this footage whatsoever, because it will mean that I have to record an entire new episode if it doesn't work. But yeah, I'm going to go over there, cover the entire ocean ticking area with solid blocks, and then once I come up with a sort of working farm concept, I guess I'll bring you back. Okay, so getting the whole platform up took roughly around about the better part of about 4 to 5 hours to get the platform up. We also went ahead and built up the sides all the way around the platform. As you can probably see, let me get my trident so then we can move around. So there are sections of this which was a bit of a pain, considering that it went down pretty deep on this far side. I did end up setting up a conduit just so it was easier for us to get around. So like this area went down really deep. And then, yeah, it just goes all the way around. And that is to prevent the spawns that happen outside of the ticking range from actually swimming inside. All the area inside is actually completely barren now by the looks of it. So if we go for a look inside, you won't really see any fish or squids or dolphins or anything whatsoever. We did actually go around and kill everything that was down here after we put the platform above. So the platform itself is doing its job brilliantly. And as for the design of the farm, now after a lot of testing and a lot of failed attempts. The design that I initially came up with was very simple by the end of it. Like, the squids can spawn at pretty much any level that I've tested so far, and I tested it up to about Y70, I think it was. No, what? Not Y70, about Y85 I tested it up to, and they were still spawning at that height. And so then I thought, well, can we see if they spawn in bubble columns? So I tested on soul sand and on magma blocks, and both of them were able to spawn fish and squids on. So then I came up with the idea of just having hopper mine carts underneath a bunch of magma blocks to make for a very simple farm, and it would have worked. But after I sort of come up with an idea of a farm, I tend to do a little bit of searching on YouTube just to see if there's any more efficient, better plans or more unique ideas to take inspiration from. And the idea that I had was the top search result, which is another one of Silent Whisper's designs, and he done it the exact same way that I sort of come to the conclusion of doing it. So I sort of backtracked on that idea, and unfortunately it started to rain, but I've got my trident, so it saves on rockets anyway. So I sort of backtracked on that initial idea, and I didn't want to do a farm design that has been done in a tutorial, which is one of the most viewed tutorials for Bedrock Edition for squid farms, which means that everyone's going to have it, which means if you was watching this video and you wanted to see a squid farm like that, it's just, there's no point. If everyone's building it for me, there's no fun if it's been done 100+ times before. So me and Max, I had sort of scratching our heads thinking, well, how else can we do a squid farm using the mechanics that are currently in it and utilising the spawn mechanics that are currently in the game. So as you can probably see at the moment, Mac is gallantly setting up a bunch of flying machines, and the idea is that instead of dragging them down on magma blocks, we're going to end up pushing them up with soul sand instead, just for the fun and just to make it a little bit more tricky on ourselves. So what we're going to be having is 6 separate tanks, so 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and then hopefully we'll have flying machines after the fish get pushed to the top. We're going to have the flying machines hopefully push them into a central collection area. Now in the long run, as far as resources are concerned, it will probably save a lot on the minecart tracks and hopper minecarts that we'll have to have set up, because we're only going to have to cover this little middle section here. And the fish I did test with the soul sand. As soon as they spawn, after about 4 to 5 seconds they take suffocation damage even while in the soul sand, because it's counted as a type of air block as well as water, which is a little bit weird. But yeah, they do start taking suffocation damage, so either we're going to get live fish being pushed to the centre, if my words will come out. Either live fish or just the fish drops that they suffocate and should then die, and then the drops get pushed to the centre. But one way or another, we're hoping to have it raining fish in the centre. That Enderman is going absolutely schizo due to the rain. But yeah, what I'm doing is I'm actually waiting for Mac to sort of get these flying machines lined up, so then I can sort of build the tanks around them. Because we did figure out very quickly that when we was both working simultaneously, he wasn't too sure exactly where the return mechanisms were going to line up and exactly where the slime blocks were going to line up for every single flying machine. So we decided that he's just going to crack out and get the flying machines in place, so that way I can then start building the tanks around them. And the tanks I can adjust to any size or shape variant that need be for the flying machines in order to make them work without getting stuck anywhere. So yeah, as for progress, this is where we are at the moment, stuck in the rain trying to record, which is an absolute nightmare. But it is coming along slowly. It's now about 11:15 in the evening. I did start recording first thing this morning. It was around about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning when I first began recording, and I've been on since. I've stopped a couple of times to have a break for food and to pop out to walk the dog and whatnot, but other than that, it's been pretty much solid grinding and testing. A large majority of the time was taken up testing mechanics out just to see how they spawn, what they spawn in, best method to kill them, and then to find out that all the research was for absolutely nada, because we are not using that design. But yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that it's pushing forward. It's going to be definitely a unique version of Farm, which should make it entertaining to see the end result of it. But unfortunately, this video is going to be a little bit sort of jump cut and show you the progress rather than you watching me build, because it's very large sort of sections that we're having to do. It's going to be very repetitive because it's going to be the exact same thing times 6 times. You can sort of see what we're going for. But hopefully that's enough for you guys to stay interested watching this video either way. But hopefully I should have a massive sort of jump forward progress sort of update in the next cut. So yeah, I guess I'll catch you back in a while by the looks of it. So yeah, in a bit. Oh my god, guys, it has been so very long doing this stuff now. Me and Mac built up 3 of the tanks and we filled one of them up before we realised that we was getting tons of spawns underneath the platform. So it took, no word of lie, we tried everything we could that we could possibly think of to try fix it as to why we were getting spawns underneath. We was double checking the platform. And then we were going around and then we dug holes in the platform underneath the tanks just in case that was causing the issue. And still we're getting spawns like over this side and all along the left hand side and some spots in the middle. And it took a lot of testing, around about 8 or 9 hours worth of testing. We was actually at the verge of just deciding to drain out the entire area underneath the platform. But then after a couple of weird random tests that we could think of, we found out that if you have the glass blocks actually sitting on the platform, it is then transferring the properties of the glass blocks to underneath, allowing underneath to actually gain sky access, which is really weird bug for this sort of farm design. So if you are using a platform to prevent spawns in the water, make sure you do not have glass touching the platform in any way whatsoever. So even if I had solid blocks underneath this set of glass here, going like 3 or 4 blocks down, the glass property would still be transferred down and they would get sky access below. So yeah, it took quite a while. And this project is now really starting to take its toll on me, especially the way that we're trying to do it now. I have figured out that I've ended up having to put a leaf roof on top because the items were bouncing up so high, and where they was bouncing up in the particle effects, as they was bouncing up and all of the particle effects it was causing, it was giving serious frame rate drops. But putting a roof on it has drastically improved the frame rate. So we've only got 4 solid blocks of water above the soul sand now, and obviously our glass tanks are going to have to be freestanding. But what I actually want to happen, we've got dolphins in there at the moment. They should actually be flung forward. What I actually want to happen is to have the live fish actually knocked into the centre to then flop about. So sort of like a raining fish farm. And this is mainly knocking the dead fish drops, which I knew that was going to happen because they suffocate in the bubble columns. But as you can see with the dolphins, this is sort of the thing that I want to happen, is that you'll see them sort of get dropped down. Oh, that's a baby dolphin. I don't want to see that. I'm going to turn away for that one. That's just cruel. Yeah, what I want to happen is actually to have all of the fish live drop down. So what I want to try to do is hopefully use water columns. We've got squid spawn in there. Now, by the way, this full farm will only work if I'm standing in this center chunk. If I'm standing one chunk over in any other direction, the spawn cap outside of our ticking radius here is then being used, which means anything that spawns in the ocean around is then being counted towards my spawn cap. Well, so yeah, we have to have an AFK spot somewhere in this chunk to be wary of. So what I want to try to do is actually use a water stream above the water columns. So basically when the fish get knocked up into the water stream, they should then stop taking suffocation damage and then get pushed along the water stream while being kept up by the bubble columns. But I'm not too sure if the bubble columns will turn the water streams into solid blocks of water or not. So it's going to require a little bit of testing on my part. You know, I'm going to go grab them mink sacks because they are quite valuable. That's what I want this whole farm for. What was I going to say? Yeah, I wasn't too sure if the bubble columns are going to turn the water streams into solid source blocks, so it is going to require a little bit of testing on my part. But that testing I can quite happily do in a creative world, because this whole project is it's definitely taking its toll. It's one of the ones that is just, I thought it was going to be a quick maybe 5 or 6 hours, and the majority of that was going to get the platform up. But this is now getting on well into the second day working on this, and it's chewed up pretty much one of my entire weekends. Usually I could have been able to record a good 3 or 4 videos in the space of time that it's taken me just to fix the problem solving on this, to figure out why it was getting spawns underneath. And this is another issue with the flying machines, is that when it's going back, no matter how much I try to encase it at the back, it is still glitching creatures. So maybe if I put some leaf blocks at the back of the line of that one, but even then I'm fairly sure it will push them through. So yeah, I'm going to try to see if I can't work something out with bubble, well not bubble columns, but the water streams, and we'll do a little bit of a test run on that when I come back. Alright then guys, so I've done a little bit of testing in Creative World regarding the idea. This one I've had to keep running, otherwise it just gets way too laggy with the items bouncing up and down. So yeah, with 6 of these running, it's going to be sort of unbearable to play in the area, I imagine. Now, I know for a fact it won't cause any server-wide issues, but it's more just the proximity of being within this many bubble columns with this many bouncing entities. But it is fun to watching all the stuff getting flung halfway across. Is it coming on its way back now? See if we get any live fish on this run. Yep. So it is a little bit gimmicky, a little bit fun, but the idea that I had for this next one, or this next sort of idea and design, is to actually have water streams coming down from the top, sort of pyramiding all the way down until it gets to the descent section, hopefully washing them down. But I was also coming into the issue that as soon as the fish hit the water stream, they start fighting the current, and with the bubble columns underneath, they're not staying in the water stream for long enough for it to actually carry them. So I want to test it without me having to spawn the fish in manually. So and I thought the best way to do that is actually just to test it over in this actual server thing. In order to fix it, it's not going to be a big issue, and it's not going to be too difficult to actually fix, like to change it back to that sort of design. But for the time being, I think it's worthwhile giving it an actual test run. So, oh wow, fish actually spawn in flowing water. This may actually be another design concept, because they don't, yeah, see, these 3 here are fighting the current. That one decided just to go and swim along with it, but they tend to be able to fight the current pretty well, which is unfortunate. But to be able to get the real effect, we're going to need the sort of bubble columns, because with the water down below, obviously the soul sand's going to create water source blocks, which is a lot more spawning spots. But in all honesty, depending on how laggy it ends up being, is really dependent on whether or not I'm going to have to make the switch to magma blocks just to alleviate the lag. There goes the pufferfish, and what they tend to do is get caught on that very end lip as well, which is rather annoying. I need to make sure that I'm not close enough to break the actual soul sand, so do that. Break all of these. That pufferfish has the ump, and like I saw. As you can see, the more soul sand that gets activated from the water dropping down onto it, the more framier it gets, which is really bad, especially trying to play. So let's do that. And next line. And all of these bouncing entities, it's not so bad now, because the entities, once they bounce, actually just get pushed off the edge. That's not much of an issue. But it's all the fish that just end up... I saw you there, go away. It's all the fish that just end up fighting the current, which is the annoying part. Okay. And got one more level after this. By the way, my test of this was on a much smaller scale as well, so we're not actually getting many fish spawn, and that is more than likely because we are right on the edge of the actual perimeter. So all of the fish around us, like behind us, are actually being counted as our mob cap. We won't actually see the effect of this until we get to that center chunk and get rid of all of the spawns behind and around us. So let's finish clearing this dirt. All the items bob along. And then head to the centre and see what happens, really. Flying machine's still running. We've got a fish down there bobbing away. Let's see what sort of spawns we get. That one's still flinging fish left, right and centre. Okay. Let's get rid of this column. Grab our blocks back. That's a little bit unsettling. The section of dirt, and that fish is just caught on the edge. Neither of these designs are all that efficient, unfortunately. This one would have been a lot better and a lot more sort of playability friendly, because it doesn't affect the frame rate nearly as much as having flying machines, and I think having 6 flying machines is going to be a little bit strenuous, especially just a few of them running could actually impact the server if they're running continuously while we're sort of AFK in the area. But then again, this farm isn't going to be one that we're going to be AFKing at for long. It's going to be one that we actually AFK at if we are the only ones on. Like, right now I'm the only one on, so I know that the full spawn cap is pretty much being taken up by only me. Not that I'm taking up the full spawn cap, but I've got the full amount of the spawn cap to use. So I can hear non-stop bubble streams. I think that's these guys getting pushed up. But as you can see, this one isn't really pushing them down. We're getting fish spawning in it perfectly fine, but it's just not pushing them down. This one is actually still kicking out all of the drops pretty regularly and pretty decently. This one, on the other hand, is just keeping the fish bobbing up and down. Now and again, the fish will try to jump up and get out of the water streams, and they end up just, yeah. So we managed to get one in the space that we're probably going to get quite a few drops from this one, but neither of them are going to be nearly as efficient as using magma blocks, unfortunately. This one's a lot more fun and sort of gimmicky, because it does fling the fish when it brings them over. There's one, there's another. But then again, we've got drops coming out the back, which I've not really patched up or found a fix for yet. We had a whole batch of fish spawn in this one, and now they're all just jumping off. It's not too bad. What I'd like to be able to see is if we get squids or dolphins spawn in this tank, and then to see how they react regarding the waterways. Okay, the waterways and the bubble columns, to see if they get dragged along easily enough, or if they're going to be fighting the current more than the normal fish are at the moment. But I was thinking, it's like, if we've got 6 of these tanks all around us, we don't really have to worry about it affecting the server too much, because we've not got moving mechanisms going everywhere. It doesn't need a roof on top of it, because the fish just get pulled to the top and then pushed along. So you don't really know which way to go. I've said quite a few times already, that's because I'm trying to decide what sort of design to go for. Like, converting this one over to this style won't be too much of a problem. It just means removing all of the leaf blocks, lowering the water level by taking it down a few blocks if I get my words out, and I'll probably end up having to remove the soul sand and then lower that as well. Oh. Come on, I'm gonna need some squids or something, so I'm gonna watch this for a good few minutes, or maybe 10 or 20, and if any spawn in this tank, I'll probably bring you back. Okay, so I've been watching this one dolphin for the better part of about 5 minutes now, and he's actually managed to make it further up the waterway than he has actually been pushed. He spawned about halfway, and then he actually managed to swim nearly all the way to the top, and now he's turned around, he's heading back. Now, as for the little fish down here, it is quite fun and gimmicky watching them drop down and sort of splash about. This one is still kicking out the drops more regularly than this one, but as opposed to quantity of the fish and the bones is pretty much the same. But the issue is that we mainly want this as a source of ink to get the sort of black dye from, and with it not killing the dolphins or squids or whatever does choose to spawn, because you can only have 4 of any one of them at any one point around the player. So if there's 4 dolphins or 4 turtles or 4 squids, it means that none of the others of them varieties are going to be able to spawn, which is a little bit unfortunate on the spawning mechanics, but there's nothing we can do about that. But neither of these farms are overly great. They're quite fun to watch, like this one kicking out the drops as far as it does, and this one with the fish then flapping about. But the fact that it takes so long, like that dolphin is still alive there, and this one can potentially, times by 6, cause quite a bit of lag, which means I'm more than likely, unfortunately, going to have to switch over to magma blocks, which is what I really didn't want to have to do. But I've pretty much tried everything that I can think of to make this farm fun. And opposed to having water flowing downwards onto fence gates to just make the creatures spawn and then drop down, so I don't think that they can swim up against water currents as much as they can swim against it going to the horizontal sort of vector. But yeah, as you can see, the drop wise isn't too bad with the little fish, but if it's not killing off the larger ones like the dolphins quick enough, then it's not going to do. And I don't know what the spawning frequency is, if they can spawn in water flowing downwards. But I think I've had enough of testing for right now, and I know that this episode is now going to be getting on quite a bit, and I know that it's not a finished product, and usually I will get a project finished in an episode, but otherwise, if I was to carry on working on this and doing more jump cuts and more testing, I could be doing this for like the better part of about 2 to 3 hours recording wise. And I think the video's probably already hitting around about the 30 or 40 minute mark with just all of the testing that I've done as it is. And that dolphin still hasn't died, and I've been talking now for about 4 or 5 minutes. So he survived 10 minutes, so he's doing good. It's one dolphin that's managed to survive longer than the rest in the one on the left, but yeah, unfortunately that's going to be it for me today, and hopefully I'll settle on a farm design before the beginning of the next episode, because I'm probably going to do a bunch more work over this area. I may actually just decide and build the farms, but I may do a little bit of testing to see if we can get them to spawn in flowing water going down, and if I can and it works, then I may well switch over to that sort of design. But that's something you're going to have to find out next episode. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's one. Hopefully you've learned a bit without having to make the same mistakes that I have in the last 2 days. But yeah, I'll hopefully catch you all in the next one. See ya.